but they're angry. And as you said that very well, they're disgusted that no one is reaching out for them to them, not just to pat them on the back or wear a hoodie and make them feel good like they look, we look the same. No, people that will actually intervene and stop mass layoffs. That's what has to happen. Direct intervention to stop mass layoffs and the tricks that Wall Street plays to promote them. Leverage buyouts, stock buybacks.
We should just be clear, as you make clear in your book, that the financial structures have changed with the rise of corporate raiders. We now politely call them private equity firms. And I did a good interview with the Pulitzer Prize winning financial or business reporter Gretchen Morgenson on her book on private equity. So, so the model changes where a private equity firm comes in and harvests a corporation to sell off its assets, in essence, to destroy it. They're not trying to sustain it. And that has fueled, we'll go back to certainly the Clinton it'd go back to Reagan probably, but that has over the last few decades seen wave after wave of mass layoffs. I wrote a book called America, the Farewell Tour, and wrote a chapter out of Anderson, Indiana. That's where GM used to make its cars, good union paying jobs, a middle class city. They literally packed up the equipment and moved it to Monterrey, Mexico, where they pay workers $3 an hour. And the city has fallen into a death spiral with all of the attendant problems that you point out: opioid addictions, suicides, very high. And yet the Democratic Party just utterly fails to address this issue. You write, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, and Bernie Sanders had golden opportunities during the pandemic to stop two significant mass layoffs, one in Morgantown, West Virginia, the other, as you mentioned, in Olean, New York. The failure to act contrasts sharply with Trump's strikingly symbolic and partially successful effort to prevent the Carrier Global Corporation from moving jobs from its Indiana facility to Mexico in 2017. And I think this is an issue that many people who dislike Trump don't pick up on, although, of course, he's a con artist. But he does speak to this pain directly in a way that no other Democratic politician does, with maybe the exception of Bernie Sanders and Sherrod Brown, of course.
Well, look, that's an excellent point. First of all, it was a very self-conscious effort on the part of the Democrats and the Republicans from Reagan on to rip up the New Deal controls, get rid of the guardrails. Just like you talked about the NLRB, that's another one they're now trying to get rid of. But basically, this these corporate raiders, the harvesters, that just wasn't going on before deregulation. That was frowned upon. That was easily stopped. SEC would walk in and say, "No, you can't do that."
Well, I just want to interrupt you. As you point out in your book, stock buybacks used to be illegal.
Yeah, well, it was basically so controlled that no more than 2% of corporate profits could go to stock buybacks. Now we're talking close to 70% of all corporate profits in society. And some companies, not just a handful, but hundreds and hundreds, spend more than 100% of their profits on stock buybacks. They're basically taking their money and giving it to the largest stock owners. They're not investors. These are stock sellers. And these are the hedge funds and other large institutions that swoop in, demand a stock buyback. Actually, that's why Carrier was moving to Mexico, not to keep up with the competition, but its parent company, United Technologies, had a bunch of hedge funds took a position in that company and said, we want a $6 billion stock buyback. So they figured, we can save $60 million by moving our most profitable division to Mexico. And Trump did intervene. The story of, it's so painful to bring this one up, but, I connected with the president of the union at the Morgantown, West Virginia facility. It's Mylan Pharmaceuticals. And there's a whole seedy history there with Joe Manchin's daughter, and she got like $100 million.
Right, they produce EpiPens for $10 and then sell them for hundreds of dollars.
but there's a whole bunch of. But let's put that aside. She was gone, and the new owner wants to move it to India in the middle of the pandemic, and they're making generic products. So this local union was steel workers, former oil, chemical, atomic workers, progressive, organized, and they got Bernie Sanders' crew, Our Revolution, to support them. They appealed to Biden administration. They appealed to Bernie. They appealed to Manchin. They even suggested to the state government, why don't you buy the company and then we'll produce generic products for the VA and for Medicaid. Pretty smart, right? Nobody did anything. So 1,500 of the probably the best blue collar jobs other than coal in all of West Virginia, 1,500 jobs, average pay 70 grand, goes under. And this was when they could have used the Defense Production Act. They did that with the baby formula just before this period, but they didn't want to do it. And I can't figure out why. This was such an easy way to bring national attention to, we're not going to put up with mass layoffs. It's funny, the president of United Technologies had a great line. When they asked him, well, why did you give in to Trump? He goes, I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. We get 10% of our revenue comes from federal contracts, right? So there's $760 billion a year in federal contracts. What if you told them, guess what? From here on in, no more mass layoffs, no more stock buybacks. You don't want to do that? Don't take the contract. We'll find somebody else. Set up. You can use the bully pulpit. You can use the federal contract. Now, people will say, whoa, wait a second. You're messing with capitalism. It's not going to work. Well, you know what? These large corporations are enormously flexible. The other thing we found, this is another sad one, that Olean plant in upstate New York was Siemens Energy. 90,000 employees, was spun off, but still connected to Siemens, which has 400,000 employees, a German-based company. Well, 1,700 U.S. workers lost their jobs when they stopped making a certain kind of compressor for oil rigs or fracking or something. In Germany, 3,000 were going to lose their jobs. But because they have co-determination there, half the board members are workers, including high-level union officials. They did all these investigations. They did all these pressure tactics. And the company agreed to no compulsory layoffs. Plus, this is the part that was really mind-blowing. In other words, you have to buy the worker out before they'll leave. Otherwise, you can't get rid of them. The 6 facilities that were making the product that they were shutting down, they agreed to put something else in the plant and keep the 6 plants open. So that could be part of your federal contract. No compulsory layoffs, no plant shutdowns, no stock buybacks. But you have to interfere with capitalists and Wall Street prerogatives. That takes guts. And I keep asking myself, don't they see that it really works for Sherrod Brown in Ohio? I mean, Bernie in Vermont and Elizabeth Warren in Massachusetts, those are, Democratic states. But Ohio, Brown outpaced Trump by 15% in 2020. So people respond to those who are really trying to protect their jobs, and it just has to happen. My big fear is that the right is going to wake up. They're going to see what Trump did. The polling, by the way, after that showed that was enormously popular with the American public and with Democrats, for that matter. They're going to wake up and say, you know what? Instead of going after these companies because they're too woke or for diversity, let's go after them because of their layoffs. Now
you make an interesting point that reminds me of Gaza, actually. I mean, so